My boyfriend promised to propose on our vacation. Instead, he told me he was in love with someone else. I believed we had it all figured out. Our relationship wasn't just some passing phase or casual fling. It was something solid, something real, something that led to a shared future. For months, he had promised me that during our vacation he would propose. It wasn't a vague hint or an offhand remark. It was a clear, confident promise that shaped everything in my mind. That promise became the center of my thoughts, my plans, and my hopes. I pictured the moment over and over, playing it like a movie in my head. The ring, the words, the look on his face. I imagined myself saying yes, feeling like finally we were stepping into the next chapter. Everything else faded in importance compared to that one event. As the vacation approached, I prepared myself. I bought a new dress I thought would be perfect for the occasion. I packed carefully, making sure I included the small things he liked. The perfume I wore when we first met. The bracelet he once said he loved. I arranged my schedule at work so I could leave on time and not feel rushed. Every detail mattered because this was more than a trip. It was the moment that would change everything. The air around me buzzed with anticipation. Friends and family asked about our plans, and I smiled because I knew the secret they didn't. This was it. During the days before the trip, we talked endlessly about our future. We planned where we might live, joked about what kind of wedding we'd have, and even discussed potential baby names. None of it felt like fantasy. It felt like a sure thing. I let myself believe it completely because he never gave me any reason to doubt. His words were steady, his gaze firm, and his touch reassuring. When I looked at him, I saw a man ready to commit, ready to make us official. That promise wasn't just a promise. It was a bond. When we finally arrived, the place felt like it belonged in a movie. The sun was bright, the ocean stretched endlessly, and the sky was clear every morning. It was everything I imagined and more. I felt lucky just to be there, to be with him, to live that moment we had dreamed about. The days were full of simple pleasures, walks on the beach, dinners by candlelight, laughing over shared stories. But beneath the surface, I was waiting for the real moment. I checked my phone less, focused more on him, and kept imagining when he would finally say the words. Still, as the days passed, nothing happened. No ring appeared, no special conversation started. I told myself it was fine. Maybe he was waiting for the perfect day, the perfect moment. I tried not to let the doubt grow. I told myself to trust him, to have patience. But deep inside, I started to notice small things. He seemed distracted at times, checking his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes he would sigh heavily, stare off into the distance. The warmth I expected wasn't always there. I caught myself questioning him silently, but when I tried to speak up, I stopped. I didn't want to spoil the trip. I didn't want to seem needy or doubtful, so I swallowed it down and kept smiling. On the second to last day, I felt restless. The excitement I had felt was replaced by nervous tension. I replayed all our conversations, searching for clues, for hints, for anything I might have missed. I thought about how I would react when he proposed. Would I cry, laugh, freeze? I wasn't scared. I was ready. But I was also scared to be let down. I wanted to believe in him, but the silence was deafening. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced with worst-case scenarios I refused to admit during the day. I turned over every moment, every look, every word. The morning of the last day, I woke early. The sun was shining through the curtains, and the ocean breeze filled the room. I dressed carefully, choosing the dress I had hoped to wear the day before. I sat quietly, waiting for him to be ready. When he finally called me to sit down, I thought my heart would leap. But when I looked at his face, I saw hesitation, confusion, something I had never seen before. Instead of the excitement I expected, there was distance. He didn't say the words I had waited for. Instead, he told me he was in love with someone else. The world fell apart in that moment. Every hope, every dream, every plan I had made shattered like glass. I couldn't believe what I heard. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear, but I just sat there feeling nothing and everything at the same time. I tried to understand. How? When? Why? The questions flooded my mind, but no answers came. The promise was gone, replaced by betrayal. I realized then that everything I believed in was a lie. The future we planned wasn't ours at all. The moment he told me he was in love with someone else, everything changed instantly. It was like the ground beneath me gave way without warning. All the plans, the hopes, the trust I had built up over months, even years, collapsed in seconds. I sat there, stunned, trying to wrap my mind around what I had just heard. My brain raced for answers, reasons, anything that could make sense of this, but there was nothing. Only an overwhelming emptiness filled with raw pain. I immediately began replaying every moment of the past months in my head. I searched for signs I had missed, things I had ignored or brushed off. I remembered how he always included me in his future plans, how we talked about us and together as if it was already guaranteed. None of that seemed real anymore. I asked myself if he had been lying all along, if he had changed and just never told me, or if this new love had come suddenly and destroyed everything. But why keep it secret? Why make me believe in something that wasn't true? Those questions haunted me endlessly. After his confession, the rest of the vacation was suffocating. We stayed in the same place, but we were like strangers. His eyes avoided mine, his words became cold and distant. The man I thought I knew was gone. The promise of forever I had believed in was replaced by a harsh reality I couldn't escape. Each day was filled with a painful mix of silence and distance. The flood of emotions that crashed over me was overwhelming. Betrayal burned hot inside me. Confusion left me dizzy. Sadness swallowed me whole. And anger flared in moments I least expected. I hated him for breaking me, for tearing apart the future I trusted him to build with me. But I also hated myself, for trusting so blindly, for not seeing the cracks sooner, for letting myself believe in a lie. I kept questioning my worth. Was I not enough? Was there something I failed to give or see? The questions had no answers, only pain. At night, alone in the dark, my thoughts were relentless. The dreams I had carefully constructed around us shattered and scattered like glass. I couldn't imagine a life without him, but I also couldn't imagine staying in a relationship where my heart wasn't the only one he cared for. I realized the truth I had avoided for so long. I had to face the reality, no matter how painful. As the vacation days passed, the weight on my chest grew heavier. Every shared moment, every memory became a reminder of what was lost. I felt torn between the desire to hold on and the need to let go. I started making plans to leave early, to get back home and figure out how to pick up the pieces. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do, to accept that what I wanted most was gone and that I needed to find strength to move forward without him. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know how to heal or if I ever would, but I knew it couldn't be with someone whose heart belonged elsewhere. I had to find a way to trust myself again, to rebuild my sense of worth, to live a life not defined by betrayal. The path ahead was uncertain, frightening, and lonely, but it was the only way forward. When I returned home, the weight of what happened didn't suddenly disappear. The pain stayed with me like a constant presence, quiet but heavy. The first days were empty. I woke up each morning to a silence that screamed how much had changed. The life I thought I was building was gone, and I had to face the fact that nothing would ever be the same. It was terrifying to admit, but I knew I couldn't go back to how things were before. I had to start over, not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. Those first days alone were confusing. I felt lost in a space that once felt familiar. Every place in my apartment reminded me of him, of the promises made and broken. Simple things like the way he used to leave his things on the floor, or his favorite mug in the kitchen, they became painful reminders. I forced myself to pack away reminders, to put distance between the past and the present. It wasn't easy to do that while everything inside me wanted to hold on. But slowly, day by day, I built a small space just for me. A place where I could breathe without the shadows of betrayal closing in. The nights were the hardest. Lying in bed, the silence was louder than ever. My mind replayed the moment he told me the truth. How calm he was, how different he looked. I couldn't make sense of it. I kept asking myself, why? Why did he wait? Why didn't he tell me sooner? Why was I the last to know? The questions had no answers. I had to accept that some things would stay mysteries. That pain comes without reason, and sometimes love ends without explanation. Friends reached out, but I found it hard to explain. I wasn't ready for pity or advice. I just needed space. I kept to myself, spending hours walking outside, trying to find some peace in the noise of the city. I read books, listened to music, anything that could distract me from the storm inside. Every step was a battle against the urge to fall back into despair. In those weeks, I realized that the person I had been with was not the man I thought he was. The man I trusted and planned a future with had kept a secret so big it destroyed us. It wasn't about revenge or anger anymore, it was about survival, about reclaiming my life on my own terms. I knew I couldn't let his choices define me or my worth. I had to learn to stand without him. I began to focus on myself. I set small goals, things I had put off or ignored because I was so wrapped up in us. I started exercising, not to change how I looked, but to feel strong again. I joined classes I had wanted to try for years but never did. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones. Each small success gave me a little more confidence, a little more hope. There were days when I felt broken, when I doubted I would ever love again or trust someone with my heart. But those days became fewer. Slowly, I started to believe that the future was still mine to shape, that the pain could teach me something about who I was and what I wanted. I also learned to forgive, so not him, but myself. I forgave myself for trusting too much, for ignoring signs, for loving blindly. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or excusing what happened. It was about letting go of the anger that weighed me down and moving forward lighter. Looking back now, I see how much I've changed. The betrayal was the darkest moment of my life, but it forced me to grow in ways I never expected. I became more resilient, more self-aware, and more honest with myself. I learned that sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the deepest, but that doesn't mean you have to stay broken. I don't pretend I'm fully healed. The scars are there, and sometimes they ache. But I've made peace with the past. I'm no longer waiting for a love that was never mine. Instead, I'm building a life where I'm the one in control. It's messy, imperfect, and sometimes lonely, but it's mine. If you're watching this and going through something similar, know this. You are stronger than the pain. You can rebuild. It won't be easy, and it won't be quick, but it's possible. Your worth isn't defined by someone else's betrayal. It's defined by how you rise after you fall.